Hey folks, Malforian here, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at Dev Diary 123 Still Doing for Glory. I'm probably pronouncing that terribly wrong. I do apologise if I am. Someone correct me in the comments with the correct pronunciation if you know it. But yeah, this is all about grand tournaments. They discussed this last week, saying that's what we're going to be looking at this week. It looks really, really good. They're going to be showing off like how the UI works, how the tournaments work, and then also a little bit about how some new traits are going to work as well, kind of tied into it, which looks really cool. So we're just going to get straight into it. Visions of a Cloth of Gold. I'm not going to read through this bit. This is just basically saying like historically what these events were all about and kind of like how they worked in kind of the real life, and then also how they want them to work in CK3, because they don't want it just to be focused on high medieval Western European knights or something like that. Something like historically, I think if you thought of a tournament, especially if you're from Europe, you probably have like a vision of how tournaments would look. Maybe like how they look in like Game of Thrones or something like that. But they want to make sure if you play in India, if you play in Persia, if you play in the steppe, it will be different. You're not just going to be playing the same kind of event constantly. So, and they will go over this later on, like how this works, but there's going to be like wrestling, Indian archery, steppe horse racing, and things like that. And they will be available depending on where you play in the map. It is tied to traditions, so they will go into that later on. They just want to make sure that it does play differently where you are. You're not doing like, you know, medieval knight jousting if you're in the subcontinent or something like that. Like, it wouldn't make sense, and they want to make sure when you play the game, it does play differently. So that's what they're going to be going through today, based on was it the Field of the Cloth of Gold? Is that what it was called? I think it was, where I think it was King Henry of England, and I'm going to get this wrong, probably King Philippe of France. I think it was Philippe the First or Second. And it was a big famous tournament where they all got together, had some hijinks for a long time, cost a lot of money. Pretty famous event, and it's kind of loosely based, I think, on that. So yeah, they're going to be going through everything in here. So like I say, I won't read this. As always, there'll be a link to this in the description down below if you want to read through it. Just some kind of interesting like context as to what else we're going to be talking about today. So I'll invite myself. There are a few unique aspects about the Grand Tournament activity type. First is that it's an open activity, meaning that you do not send invitations to this activity, but characters instead decide for themselves if they want to come along. So basically you'll get a pop-up here, as they're talking about down here. You'll see a pop-up, you'll get a notification, do you want to attend this tournament? And you just say, yeah, I want to go along to this, I want to see what's going on at this tournament. You do have to be close enough, and then also you do have to get there in time. So as we've seen with a lot of these reworks with all the reworks with events, they're all on-map like events that you have to travel to. And as with the other ones, if you don't make it there in time, you're basically just turned away, just told like, yep, too late, sorry, you can't participate anymore. So you kind of wasted your time traveling. But for some kind of iterations of it, you won't realize that, because whilst you're traveling, you might get held up for some reason. So you'll think you'll make it in time, but you won't. So that's pretty cool, I think. I like how that's going to work. And they're just saying you will get notified. Here it is. Here's the notification at the top. Activity, Duke Vadislav's Grand Tournament. Do you wish to attend? And you basically click into this, and you'll get this, saying that you wish to attend, the activity phase that's currently happening, and how long it will take you to travel there. Does it tell you when it starts? You have to leave within 3 months. Okay, so at the bottom, I guess if you're not going to make it, this will just disappear. But if you're close, I guess you'll have to think, okay, well, I could pay for maybe quicker transit or something like that. And, you know, you will make it in time. And then, like I say, you might get an event that actually delays you, and then it's too late. Yeah, you just say this. This is obviously the activities UI. It's actually showing ones that you can host yourself. So you can host a grand activity. That's how much they're going to cost for this guy. And then host an activity itself. I guess you can just, hunt, feast, or pilgrimage. We saw this last week. They kind of showed out how these ones are changed. And then again, as I said, they're just saying that if you arrive by the time just before the first contest, you'll be allowed in. If you arrive after the first contest has started, you'll basically get turned away and told to jog on, basically. Just, sorry, you're too late. Come back next time. So yeah, all makes sense, I think. I like how that works. The Spice of Life. In order to accurately represent the earlier mentioned huge variation in cultural sporting events, we chose a selection of 8 different events to tickle your fancy within tours and tournaments, a selection of the most widely applicable and most famous of their ilk. Each one has its own unique challenges, opportunities, and even availability. For example, while a joust might not fit in the Tibetan plateau, archery is something that we enjoyed across a wide array of cultures, to the point where you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who'd never encountered the concept of a friendly shooting contest. I think that makes sense. You know, archery is pretty universal, whereas other things not so much. You know, horse racing probably not in certain areas. You don't go horse riding in the Himalayas or something like that. I doubt. I mean, you could do. It'd be pretty wild though. Having this 8, so they're going to be melee, archery, recital, board games, joust, wrestling, duel, and horse race, allow us to open up exactly who can partake. Under standard game rules, it's not possible to have a woman participate in the joust, for example, but even the staunchest supporter of traditional gender roles would admit that a recital is no such issue. It also opens up the opportunity for specialists of a different kind. If you're not into physical shows of strength, you could even just organize what Rager affectionately likes to describe as a tournament for nerds, setting up an event that only has recital board games. That is cool. It's not the same. As they are going to show in a second, you specialize how your tournament works, and I guess the more of these you have unlocked, the more choices you have. And like I said, a lot of them are tied to traditions and things like that. So as you progress through the game, you do get more options as you go through. So yeah, I like how you can mix it up. I like to say you can just have a tournament for nerds, just recital board games, or you could just have a wrestling and melee themed tournament. You can kind of play around with it a little bit. It's not just the same event, or it's not like kind of like how activities work now, where it's just like standard stuff. You press feast and the same feast basically happens. It's going to be different depending on what you want to do. If you want to, you know, I'm sure it just defaults to some if you want to. So again, just that little bit of extra choice in things is always cool. There's also variation within the contests themselves. You might expect from a rather diverse selection of sporting events. Each contest falls into one of 4 formats: knockout, teams, turns, and race. As such, your path to victory will vary between each of these. A horse race is a very simple and rather short contest, for example, but a contest with rounds like duels or jousts have you facing multiple opponents in turn for a much longer form of spectacle. More on that later on, which they are going to show. There's a cool UI and everything for that. Finally, there's some changes as time goes on. One of the things you as a community have repeatedly asked for is more delineation between early ages and later ones as the game progresses. We've tried to reflect that in some of the small ways in tournaments. In this early start date, you might find tournaments only capable of hosting a single contest. So I like this. I've never really thought about it too much, but I do know that the community has kind of brought this up as a, not an issue, but something they would like to see, is kind of trying to show a bit more in game how things were different in the 800s to the 1300s. Like, quite different kind of, historically, what the world was like. I mean, not crazily different, but enough difference that it would be cool if you saw some more of that in game. And you do kind of see with traditions, like unlocking new things, but I think a lot of them are so passive that you don't really notice the difference, apart from like more domain limit and things like that. You don't really notice. I think if you looked at a map, if I showed you me playing the game for 5 minutes in the start of the game and then showed you me playing it for 5 minutes in like 1350, you probably wouldn't be able to tell that I was playing it like 400 years apart. And it is cool kind of adding these ways. They're just small ways, but there are ways that you will notice it. So I do like they're actually thinking of this. And they could have just let you do everything from the start, but they've kind of shown like, look, this is how it will progress. And as you go into the next era, you unlock additional contests. So beginning, maybe there's just one. Once you get to high medieval, you can do everything. You can have massive tournaments because stuff has progressed that a little bit. So yeah, later on, however, tournaments will have evolved past a simple way to train for bopping other folks in the head a bit and have become bona fide festivals. All people from all walks of life, young and old, the frail and the fit, the peasants and the upper crust, come to tournaments to take in the sights and sounds. The prospect of a high-quality sporting entertainment is just one attraction amongst the revelry and the scale and the cost of such events. Yeah, I can't imagine what the cost is going to be like. It's going to be insane, I would imagine. Of course, you can still hold smaller tournaments in the later eras if you don't fancy incurring the costs. But as you unlock them, you'll always have the option to throw the biggest sporting bonanza you possibly can. It's also worth noting that the amount of contests you can have will vary, as seen in the screenshot, by such sundries as cultural traditions. The French, for example, are very into the pomp and magnificence of the tourney, so they unlock a slot of an era sooner than the others do. Oh, that's pretty cool. So yeah, if you play as the French, you actually unlock things early. So I guess they can have 2 when other ones can have 1. They can have 4 events when others can only have 3. I like that. I guess it's kind of weird only the French get this. Maybe more do, and they're just, this is an example. Oh, it is. It literally says the French, for example. Although I'm not sure if it means it that way. Anyway, I would imagine there's more than just the French that get this bonus, but maybe it is just the French. Again, I like this, like different little bits of like flavor and changes depending on where you play. Location, location, location. We've kind of seen this in the previous dev diaries, but yeah, tournaments benefit from having infrastructure, that is to say buildings to support them. Specific contests within a tournament will get cheaper by already having the built buildings that will support them within the barony. This can substantially reduce the cost of a tournament within said barony, as the hosting barony, keep saying barony as much as I can, will not have to construct said buildings before the tournament and tear them down afterwards. Want to hold a joust or a horse race? Already having a jousting grounds constructed will cut the cost of hosting this in half. Other buildings can reduce the cost of hosting the tournament itself, such as the Royal Armouries Duchy building will reduce the cost by 25%. Having a barony planning a hosting or tournaments with appropriate buildings will help with managing costs. So yeah, you can actually, if you specialize a certain place, this is going to be really cool to see how people do this. Like if you have some lands of your own, I imagine most people will put it in like your first duchy because you tend to keep control of that even through succession. Whereas if you place it a bit further away, you could invest a lot of money into it and then via succession you lose it. Like I know you can still hold things there. They mentioned that I think last week. Like if one of your vassals owns an area, you can basically, it doesn't cost you anymore because you're the king. So you're just like, yeah, I'm just going to use that land. Thank you very much. So I guess it doesn't really matter, but still, I think I'd like to kind of control it myself and then I can decide what gets built there and all that stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how people play maybe a little bit different to make sure they keep control of these grand tournaments areas that they've invested a lot of money in to then save them more money later on, especially with how it progresses. You know, they are going to get more expensive as you progress through time, do more events, as I've said. So I guess you kind of want to invest in it as early as you can to kind of recuperate that cost later on in a way. But yeah, again, kind of just showing how things are kind of intermingled together. The building update is also affecting this as well as the other activities and things like that. So planning a spectacle. Once you've found our location, we can select which contest we want. As mentioned previously, we have 8 contests to choose from. Again, with some fantastic art. So late medieval era contest selection. And I guess they've got 4 here. It looks like we can select more though over here. So yeah, I guess you just slot them into here. Which ones do you want to do? Contests have different costs to them. A joust being a whole deal with a Pompley of armor, a particularly antsy horse, and a lance of intermittently massive size is naturally more expensive than, say, a recital, as anyone who has ever gone to an open mic night on a Friday can sadly attest to. Yeah, true. Yeah, if you're just doing recital, you just need a stage, I guess, or not even that, to be honest, just a nice inn. And yeah, whereas a joust or a melee, obviously you need a bit more equipment and stuff like that. So yeah, here we go. He's selected a melee, a team-based one. So I guess teams, it'd be cool to see how they work. Like how do you select which team you're in or something like that. And yeah, you can spectate, or I guess if you choose this, you choose to attend it on your own. And then yeah, 100 cost for this in this location at this time. It would cost you 100 gold to do this kind of single contest grand tournament. I like this this UI. So during the contest planning, you also select whether or not you wish to attend, as we've seen with a simple toggle. That's cool. You can just do it in the same UI. You haven't got to mess around kind of choosing then later on if you want to attend. Although I'm sure you can probably change it before it starts if you want to. As mentioned, it's not just about the events of the tournament. A key part of the whole deal is interacting with others and experiencing the tournament itself. We saw this UI before, but it's kind of a bit more fleshed out now. So we've got the tent camp, the artisan quarters, the tourney grounds, the tavern, the village, the temple. And I imagine there's just a massive set of like events based around this, depending on where you are. It's not just the tournament itself. As you can see, there's a recital and just a ceremony, I guess. I guess this one's just a recital and ceremony. This is the chap here. He's gone triumph intent. I guess this is how skilled he is at the different events that he can do. And then, yeah, qualification next round in the recital. They're going to go into this a little bit in a second, so we won't go into it too much here, but you can kind of see on this bar if you're going to qualify to the next round. If you're very good at reciting, you're going to qualify, you know, if you're good at speaking good words. And then I guess these are all the contestants. Oh, it even shows if they're like a vassal, a powerful vassal, or a rival, or something like that as well in this UI. He's got the King of Leon. So yeah, I think this is the King of Castile. Yes, it is. King Sancho the Strong of Castile. So he's got his brother, I think, Alfonso VI of Leon here, and a bunch of other people as well. When you attend a grand tournament, you are met with a view that is called a locale view. This is a new way to experience certain activities unique to the grand tournaments and stretches across the entire screen whilst you're interacting with a contest in this activity. So yeah, this kind of takes over your screen whilst you're doing this event. In the downtime before and between contests, you have the option to interact with various locale buildings. So what is the purpose of these buildings? Well, it depends on what you're after in this particular tournament. The buildings each have a pool of unique events, as well as some that are shared, weighted based on the building in question and which intent you've selected. The short of it is, mechanically, you can choose what kind of events you want to pursue. So, yeah, I guess you go into the tavern and you get kind of tavern-based events. You go into the temple, you probably get some piety-based events. The village, probably maybe some stewardship-based events and things like that. And artisan, maybe you get like crafting ones. Maybe you bump into a good blacksmith or something and he can make you an item or something along those lines, maybe. One building type favors stress-reducing events. Another improves your character's chances of winning the upcoming contest. And another has a chance to give you knights to recruit. Oh, well, there you go. As you would imagine, staggering into the tavern is eminently more likely to trigger the likes of a game of dice or even a drunk brawl than the church is. Unless you've been significantly more lit religious settings than I'm used to. Yeah, if you go to the church, you're unlikely to get into a massive brawl, even in this time in history. All makes sense. Again, they didn't just have random events proc. You can kind of customize it even a little bit, just attending. Like, oh, I'll just hang out in the church, get some kind of piety-based things, or go to the tavern, like say, reduce stress, or just get some events around that. So just that little extra bit that kind of makes it a bit more interesting. And then there we go, the 6 that you can kind of hang around in. There's a certain cooldown with interacting with a specific building, and a cooldown interacting with the locales in general. You can pick and choose which building you wish to interact with. This also means that if you arrive early, you have time to interact with more buildings. Oh, so that actually gives you an advantage over your competitors. So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so if you get there early, you can kind of just hang around and get additional events whilst you're waiting for everyone else to turn up. Furthermore, if you do not wish to pick a locale to interact with, one will be picked automatically for you, weighted by your intent, so you don't have to basically RTS player click around everywhere whilst doing things. So we talked about this previously. I know a lot of players are going to dive into this, get super interested every time it happens, try specialize as much as they can. But there is also players, or even, just sometimes myself, like, yeah, I want to do this a lot properly, but sometimes I'll just want to get through it as quick as I can because I'm in the middle of a war or something like that. I just don't want to deal with the kind of minutiae of messing around with it. So it's good to see that it will just automatically do some of this if you don't select it. So a quick bout. Now the actual process of going through a tournament has quite a few facets to it, and I won't bore you with all of it. This dev diary is long enough as it is, but I do appreciate that. I'm just going to give us a general overview on this bit because, yeah, it's already going to be pretty long. Let's do it. So here we go. I'm playing as the Grand Prince Varislav II of Polotsk, and I have a bit too much gold burning a hole in my pocket. What better thing to spend it on than pointless flex of my martial ability? The Grand Tournament has been held in his capital, somewhat substandard choice given the thick woodland. I fancy an archery contest this time. Never mind that I have no real aptitude for it, having a mighty prowess of 1. Yeah, he's not going to do well there. I must prove my skill with my mighty you. Even if you're not good at a thing, you can still do it anyway. This kind of works a little bit like the Royal Court, where you can kind of invest as much money as you want in certain things. Accommodations, you can spend more. They're going to have more opinion of you. And prizes, you get, prize artifacts. Oh, you get artifacts from some of these. I wonder what you get. Like, I wonder if you win the joust, or you get like a cool weapon out of it maybe. I'm sure they'll go into it in a second, but you can invest more if you want. And then I guess people will be happier if they get a prize. They're probably going to like you a little bit more and stuff like that. I pick from my setup options. Ramshackle tents will do just fine. But the prizes, now they need to be glorious. I am going to win after all. True, yeah, if you think you're going to win, you'd probably invest a little bit more into it, wouldn't you? A quick interlude here to explain contest formats. We partake in an archery contest, which is rather straightforward. A group of people compete against each other. When one phase is over, one of them wins. This is also seen in horse racing and also recital. It's not quite as simple for others though. A contest like duel or joust is competitors progressing through a knockout format, whittling down the numbers until one person wins. The same is true for wrestling and board games. So kind of, like any kind of cup format, you'll fight against one person, you'll progress, fight somebody who's already won against somebody else. The final and most unique setup involves the melee, often thought to be the preeminent example of medieval European tourneying. Until the advent of jousting, a melee involves a mock battle between 2 teams of participants. Chaotic, huge, and dangerous, melees often covered large distances and were intermittent victory conditions. In-game, these involve being sorted into a team and your collective score being tied to your teammates. Anyway, enough with the dilly-dallying. So yeah, here we go, the archery contest. That is cool though about how the melee is going to work. I can imagine some unfortunate deaths happening during those, and yeah, how the teams get sorted and how it plays out is going to be cool to see. Early hurdles. So yeah, he's in the archery contest. He's got to qualify. He's got to get 20 points. And yeah, he's not very good at it. So this will be interesting. Before the guests begin to trickle in, I'm naturally considered to be the most favoured contestant in the area because no one else is there. That the rest they haven't even arrived yet is by the by. And frankly, I think it's rude you even mention it. So yeah, he's going to win because he's the only person there at the moment. But obviously, as people come in and get ready for the contest, he's going to get knocked down with his one prowess. Tournaments in bigger realms can have over 100 people attending. Yeah, that's going to be pretty crazy. So the wheat need to be separated from the chaff. Somewhat insultingly, my pathetic prowess and complete lack of existing martial practice has left my qualification very much in doubt. If you squint a bit, you might be able to see the tiny sliver of bar that's filled up. Oh yeah, he does have like the tiniest amount here. So yeah, if you're not very good, you might not even qualify to go through. And again, here's a cool event, Glorious Guest. Nice event here, chance of you progressing and just showing you in the archery contest itself. I wandered the tournament grounds, and who should I find but a famed tawny knight? Simeon might be a little portly, but his ability is undoubted. Perhaps he can teach me a thing or two. You do not understand his teachings. Oh no. Drat, double drat. Yeah, didn't work. But that's cool. Yeah, you can kind of meet knights. Again, if you get there early, you get more of these events. You might get taught something, give you a buff temporarily, I guess, and you'll get a little bit better. With time running out, I dive into the artisan's quarters. I come across Yelise, definitely how you pronounce his name, the local bowyer. As a side note, all tournaments have a set of local artisans and religious figures that ply their trade at said tournaments for the entirety of the event. And lo and behold, he happens to have a little something for sale. So there you go, brace yourself. You can buy a fine bracer, increases your score slightly, so you pay some money, you gain fine bracer, I guess that's an artifact, and then increases your score so you can might be able to hit that qualification requirement to get through to the actual tournament itself. I'd be a fool to turn it down. What's a little more gold shoveled into the realm's coffers after all? As guests pour in, the qualification adjusts itself. If I had been a noted archer, for example, it's possible that I would have just qualified right off the bat without having to do anything. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so if you're really, really good, you don't have to go through the qualification, leaving me free to wander around the nearby village or relax in the tavern. So again, if you don't have to qualify, you have that spare time to get other events happening, kind of make the most of your time there. A lot of skilled participants show up though. You might have to do a few days of qualification to get through. In this case, my lack of ability is masked at least somewhat by the correspondingly rubbish competition. As such, it only takes this fine addition of my bracer, along with a quick trip to the tavern to put a tab on for my competitors to have me well and truly in control of my destiny. So you get a little event. I guess these are people who are going to compete. Can you just like get them drunk? You lose 15 gold. Yes. That's cool. So yeah, you can basically buy them a round of drinks, get them a little bit drunk before the tournament qualification, and then you don't drink, and you kind of like evens the field a little bit. So I like that event. That's pretty fun. Another round event, so there you go, never again. They get into Wicked Hangover, which is going to make them obviously worse at the qualification, and then success. So yeah, he made it. Even though he's terrible, he managed to use these events to qualify basically to the actual tournament itself. So yeah, virtual qualifying. The adjudicators allow us in and open up the contest window. So here we go. So this is how the contest window is going to look once you're actually in the event itself. Chance to progress. It kind of looks very much like normal event ones. Kind of how you got this bar here again, kind of showing you your chance to progress, how many contestants are in there. You can wager gold, and then obviously favored contestants. As we've seen, this kind of just shows you kind of roughly who you're up against and like how good you are and things like that. Yeah, I really like this. As always, the art team knocking it out of the park for Crusader Kings. Well, all Paradox games, to be honest, have amazing art all the time. Not content with throwing away enough gold to bury the average family, I decided to have a little wager. And who else to put it on but myself? Yeah, so even though he knows he's terrible, he's going to put some money on himself. So he's going to lose 5 gold, but if he wins, he gets 45 gold back. That's not too bad. Not too bad at all. Especially if you know you're going to win, I guess. If you hold a tournament and everyone else is terrible, there's always a chance you might lose, but it's a cool way to, just get some gold. Like, I'll bet on myself because no one else has turned up. So yeah, and they haven't actually mentioned the intents, I don't think. I guess because they covered it so much previously. But yeah, here it is Triumph. I imagine, as it says there, you can change this to like intrigue focused, I guess, because basically you can sabotage other people. So archery sabotage, you can basically use your intrigue to make people a little bit bad. I guess sabotage their bows or their arrows or whatever, and then we will help you in the tournament itself. So there you go. He sabotaged his bow before the archery continues, subtly changing the pull of the string to throw him off. So yeah, causing some guy to be a little bit worse than he would have been. And then yeah, just saying here, there's a lot of events. I'm not going to go through them all in this dev diary, but there's a lot of like crazy stuff that can happen depending on your intent when you arrive and things like that. So this intent thing actually changes it quite a bit, I guess. Triumph, it doesn't actually go into what they all are, but Imagine Triumph, you maybe get some kind of bonus if you're kind of betting on yourself to do well. If you win, maybe you get like a larger renown or prestige bonus than if you didn't have it on Triumph. And then obviously if you do kind of sabotage, if you're in skullduggery kind of focus, you're knowing you're not going to be as good, so you're kind of going to the tournament thinking, well, I'm going to have to cheat to win this, and then you'll get events based on that. So yeah, that little just twist on each thing is going to be different. And then a pivotal time at the sharp end of the contest, it has really come down to it. I'm going to do quite well, but at a given point in the contest, an event called a pivotal moment will trigger. This is a very straightforward, very simple event. You have the opportunity to improve your score, but you must beware, for we have one small new mechanical addition to the game that is worth mentioning here. Previously, if a scripter wanted to perform a skill duel, as in comparing a skill against prowess or martial against another character's corresponding skill, we could only perform it against another single target. Now, thanks to quick work of our coder, we can duel against multiple skills against each other. The game will take the average of the 2 or more skills and pit them against each other. Oh, cool, yes, they've actually changed how the game works in the background. So these events can be combined. As it says here, before, it could have just been prowess or just a stewardship thing. You've seen that now in the game. You know, you have an event and it says 45% chance if you choose stewardship event to be successful, or if you choose the intrigue one, maybe it's like 90% if you're good at intrigue. But yeah, they're saying here they now have them combined, as you can see. This will combine prowess and intrigue to give you a more kind of realistic, I guess, like you might be good at prowess, but if you're also good at intrigue, you might use your skill and your brain to kind of overpower someone who maybe is just good at prowess. So yeah, it's a cool addition that they've done here. And obviously the same modders can change this and do crazy combinations. I can't imagine the things that are going to arrive in mods in the future, but I wouldn't even have thought about it, to be honest. But being able to combine these are really cool, actually, like how it will change some things in the future as well, I would imagine. To take us back to the matter at hand, in this event, all options are skill duels, and there's nowhere to hide. So yeah, the other things don't apply in this event. The closest is the fourth option, which only takes from a single skill, and the rest are all combined skill duels, giving you a chance to utilize a skill not normally associated with the event you are currently engaged in. For example, during a recital, you might attempt to combine diplomacy with intrigue, or opt for your experience in battle with a rousing martial-led verse. It's not really good for anything, so I'll try maintain my advantage. So yeah, again, just to kind of explaining here, yeah, for the recital, you can tell a little diplomatic story with a bit of intrigue, a bit of lies maybe sprinkled in there. And yeah, the event here, so the 4 options, 13%, yeah, he said he's not really good at archery, so yeah, he's not got good options here, but they all do kind of help him a little bit. And then arrow, black arrow, I've saved you to the last. Oh, do you actually get like a zoomed in thing? Oh yeah, maybe you do. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I kind of just thought it'd just stay in this UI, but it looks like maybe you actually get shown like where you hit, or maybe this always just looks like this. It would be interesting if it did change though, depending on where you hit it. I mean, it could be worse. I could have missed the target entirely. So yeah, he didn't do great, but he did okay. And there we go, highly strung event. Victory is close. Again, just kind of the UI itself looking pretty cool. I was already amongst the front runners, but frankly, maintaining my lead was fairly good outcome. The last few competitors take their shots, and he won. With his one prowess, he won the archery tournament through a little bit of skullduggery and other things, you know, getting people drunk and all that good stuff. He actually ended up winning it, which is pretty insane. Conclusion. So he won the tournament. The sun goes down on the final day of the tournament. The mass crowds begin to disperse. I find myself ruminating over the results. I had the finest aim in any of the archery. I fulfilled my goal of winning a contest. Yes, so that does explain the, where was it? Up here somewhere. Yeah, this triumph does explain that. Yeah, it does work the way I thought then. He says here, I fulfilled my goal of winning a contest. That must be triumph. Triumph, you must get a bonus for winning something. You go saying, I'm going to win this, and you must get a bonus for that reason, which I don't think they go into. That's how they work, but that must be how it works because it mentions it here. That must be tied to your focus for going there and things like that. The happy crowds pass me by as they wind their way home. I'm looking forward to the next tournament already. All finished. So he won the archery contest. I don't know why he looks so mad. He gained 150 prestige, 50 gold. You gained Merry Aim for 5 years. That must give you a buff. I think they go into it. Yeah, they do down here. You also gained 400 prestige, lost 30 stress, and became owner of a prize ring. So yeah, you got an artifact for winning the tournament. I may have spent the realm's riches on holding a tournament, but at least I won. The returns aren't too shabby either. Oodles of prestige, a snazzy ring, a little money back on my expenses, plus the wager winnings, and a rather handy modifier. So yeah, the merit aim gives him +3 injury resistance, +3 archer damage. I guess if you're going to go to war, it's not too bad. Extra 3 damage for your archer units. And then the trade experience +10%. They're going to go into this in a minute about how this trait works. It's actually really cool. It's worth saying at this point that the rewards scale rather heavily by the scale of your tournament, and thus are also lightly tied to the area you're in. If you organize a gigantic late game tournament with 5 contests, the prestige rewards are easily going to scale into their thousands, with even more juicy rewards like Dynasty Renown may become available. So yeah, as we mentioned at the beginning, the larger the tournament, the better the reward's going to be, but obviously the higher the cost is going to be. So yeah, I guess you actually probably want to attend as many as you can that other people are hosting, because it looks like a good way of basically just getting really cool buffs and bonuses and artifacts and things like that. I guess hosting your own, you do get a bunch more bonuses, and if you're very good, you can obviously specialize in certain things. But of course, this experience is only relevant if you're actually participating in a tournament. If you're not a martial gender, things play out somewhat differently. Tournaments are inherently less directly interactive if you're not partaking, though as mentioned, there will be generally at least some options to participate. As I said, recitals and board games and things like that. So naturally less attractive to non-martial gender ruler, but we want to give the players at least an opportunity to host them and reap the rewards. As a spectator, you'll be able to wander around the grounds with no interest in attempting to prove your score. You may not always be in a position to participate in your contest, be it due to your martial gender, injury, or some other reason. We still want you to be able to amass the rewards of attending or hosting a tournament. If you want to still take something of interest, though, you can appoint a personal champion for the duration of the tournament as your own personal stand-in. Any rewards the personal champion is handed, their liege gets a major cut-off. They are competing on your behalf after all. If you can elect to participate in the contest while your personal champion is competing, at which point you'll have more chances for rewards. It's good to be the liege. I guess you can do some of them yourself, like the recital and the melee, and then you can have a personal champion do the jousting and archery or something like that. So yeah, it is cool how they've thought about, like, if you're a female ruler, you can't do some of these, but you can host them, and you can still like attend. So you can still have some of these events happen in the buildings, but obviously you won't take part in the contest themselves. Yeah, it's good that even if you can't do things, you still get a bonus, and there's still stuff for you to do. You don't feel like you're kind of missing out on a massive part of the game because you're the wrong gender or you're injured. Like, say, I guess if you only have one leg, you're not going to be that good at the melee, so you might want to send a personal champion or just watch the melee or something like that. So yeah, they've definitely thought about this, a lot. You attend, this always happens. They've thought about if you can't attend or if your gender prevents you from attending, well, fighting in it, yourself, you can have these other options. And the personal champion bit's cool. If you have a really good knight, I guess you just send him to do everything. You get less stuff back, but you're probably more likely to win. Yeah, actually, thinking about that, yeah, if you're a non-martial character, just make sure you have a really good knight or a really good, vassal that has high martial, or whoever you can send as a personal champion. You've got a chance of getting some reward back, which you wouldn't before. So designate a personal champion while you have someone in the court position. Oh, you have a court position called your personal champion. Oh, nice. That's how it works. You have a court position, you put them in there, and then they attend instead of you for some of the events. As a liege, you're also able to command the knights attending the tournament to a certain extent. Oh, so you can actually say, like, you can't watch, I guess. You can't fight. You can designate them to participate in upcoming events if they're able to, or force them to sit in the sidelines. Yep, you can still get rewards when their knights perform well in these contests, but if they are particularly good and you are eyeing that spot yourself, it might just ease your personal competition. It is a trade-off you'll have to choose between. If you're not going to participate, I guess you want them to go, because it sounds like you get a cut of their money because they're your knights. Is that what it says? Yeah, you still get rewards when your knights perform well in the contest. Yeah, so if you have good knights, they will give you, I guess, a slice of the profits, I guess, because they're attending with you, so you're kind of paying for their attendance, I suppose, in a way. But as it says, if you're wanting to do the melee and you have a knight who's particularly good, you might just say, why don't you hang out at the tavern and I'll take this one, thank you very much. I don't want you being me in this activity. So you got to specialize in kind of like roughly how the night manager works now. So yeah, make sure you turn this off for your heir. Your heir always wants to do melees. Maybe tell him he can't, so he doesn't die in them. There's also quite a few other facets regarding knights in tournaments and indeed in general, but we won't go over that here. Keep your eyes peeled on that in the future. So I think either the next Dev Diary or the one after is going to focus on knights, because they're going to talk about how it works here, I guess. And then also, was it last week or the week before, there was like the accomplished knight? It looks like you can like rank up your knights, make them better and better, and I guess that does tie into this, because obviously the better they get at this, I guess they're more useful than the standard knights, as it were. So yeah, they're going to go over to that. So I imagine we're going to get a nightly dev diary that's going to talk about how nights work in the update, kind of how they're going to level up and things like that. So vis-a-vis visuals. Now I'm not going to go through this. This is basically just showing like how they put this all together. It's really cool actually. They actually talk about, is this Age of Empires? Pretty sure it is. Not sure what this game is. Someone will have to let me know because it looks kind of interesting what it is. They're basically saying they took inspiration from old 2D RTS and RPG games as to how they made the tournament look. As I say, we're not going to go through this. I will leave a link as always so you can read through it, but they're just basically showing how they came up with the system and how it worked in the background. So yeah, kind of VFX, how it all looks. This looks awesome. Kind of how it all worked, how they put it all together, and then how you can mod it to look different, change how the UI looks, all that stuff. So like I say, I'm not a modder. I just play good mods. And I imagine a lot of you watching this probably aren't modders either, so I won't go into this detail, but if you are a modder, there's a lot of cool stuff. They show you how it all works and how you can change it all and things like that. So they do say, though, that you can change how the buildings are. It will change, not just with mods, but actually when you're just playing it yourself. Background here will change depending on where you are. So this was obviously in forest, so it looks quite foresty. I think this is the screenshot at all points, isn't it? So I don't think there's an actual example in here that looks different. I think it's at the top, isn't it, where there's another one? Let me have a look. No, it's the same one all the time. Anyway, they do mention, so if you hold this in a desert, it will look like more like a desert. If you're in hills, it'll look a bit more hilly. So it won't just be this all the time. And I think the buildings are culture specific as well. So they either mentioned that in there or it was a developer response that I was seeing earlier saying that it will look different, which again was a question people had. Like, is it always going to just look like this no matter where you are? And they've already said, no, it will look different. And imagine, as they're saying, it's very set up for mods. There'll be some crazy mods with different locales and special buildings and things like that. So cool, obviously, that they've put all that into the planning for it. And then tiers in heaven, as briefly mentioned in Dev Diary 121, we have a whole new system for how tiered traits work in tours and tournaments. Since tournaments and one specific trait related to it was the genesis of this system, we're going to go through it here. So this is the Hastilda trait. Let's take a look how it works. They have shown this off before with the hunting system. I think it was 2 Dev Diaries ago. They showed like the 2 XP tracks that hunting has. So this is obviously the next example. So there we go. The trait itself says foot, bow, horse, and wit. This is obviously all based around going to tournaments and is going to basically show you how good you are at doing tourneys, basically. At the moment, it's not very impressive. No, it's not. He's got no skills. But you'll surely notice there's 4 tracks. Foot, bow, horse, and wit, as I just said. These tracks correspond to your 4 trait experience types when determining how skilled a participant is in a particular contest types. The tiers are not the sole factor when determining a character's aptitude, but they heavily influence it. These trait tracks can also affect other activities. You can even gather XP for it by winning duels, or even on the occasion doing something as mundane as traveling, accrue the trait experience by participating in tournaments. You don't necessarily have to participate, as these are ways to obtain it from local events, but the primary way of gaining experience is participating in contests of the appropriate categories. There's a lot to say there. So let us take a look at how these bonuses will look. You don't just get the XP from being in tournaments. You can get some from traveling to tournaments, from just doing duels, I guess, in battles that aren't part of tournaments. So I guess, you know, if you're doing a duel in a battle, you might get some foot experience. Not in that way, guys. Some kind of melee experience, and that would help you in a future tournament, because obviously you've just got general experience of fighting, so that will help you in a tournament setting, of course, as well. So yeah, level 1, the human body is the ultimate tool, and mastering it will bring you the world. So yeah, level 1, you gain +1 prowess. Level 2, you get +1 martial and +1 prowess. I guess these don't stack. Oh no, all previous levels also apply. Oh no, they do stack, so you'd have +2 prowess and +1 martial. And if you're level 3, you gain +4 prowess per level of stress. Okay, so if you're very stressed, you'd actually have really good prowess. Number of knights +2, and size of men and arm regiments +2. Oh, that's nice. I mean, it's pretty hard to max out your regiments. I'm sure some of you have, but well, you know, it's not that hard later on in the game. But yeah, you can actually increase it here as well, which is nice. Nice little additional bonus. For bow, it is a small health boost, another small health boost, so I guess they stack, and vassal levy based contribution. So a nice little bonus, I suppose. And then another small health boost. Jesus. We're going to see Heistine living to he's like 200 years old if he's good at this. Army gold maintenance minus 25%. Wow, that's going to stack. It is pretty crazy. I think last week or the week before they mentioned about they don't like how so many things could stack and they were trying to get away from stat stacking. But as we've seen with more of these dev diaries, there's going to be some crazy maintenance stacking, I think, here that you could have depending on your lifestyle and things like that. Horse, beast, and rider in perfect harmony, glorious and free beneath the blue sky. So plus 5% martial, and then plus 10%, 20 vassal opinion if they're glory hounds, plus 1 prowess per level of fame. Wow, yes, if you have all of these stacked up, you'd actually have quite a lot of additional prowess. I guess that makes sense. You know, you'd be a legend in the tournament scene. Plus 5% renown, that's not too bad. And then wit, plus 1 diplomacy, plus 2, plus 5% lifestyle experience. Oh, that's across any lifestyle as well. Zealot, vassal opinion, plus 10, plus 3 diplomacy, plus 10 lifestyle experience. So yeah, plus 15 lifestyle experience is pretty good for that. I guess, you know, you're a smart person, you're showing that off. Makes sense, you'd be probably good at learning things overall. Now, the trick here is that these effects stack. Not only do they stack with themselves, they also stack with each other. In other words, if you have level 1 wit and level 1 horse, you gain both the 5% prestige and the plus 1 to diplomacy. Now, I'm sure the observant of you have worked something out by now. The thought on your mind is right now is probably something along the lines of, this seems way too strong. You cannot be serious about this trait. That is kind of what we were thinking. You are right, it is too strong, but that is the intention. It is extremely unlikely you'll be able to get all tracks level to this point. If you do, you'll no doubt have spent the vast majority of your life tourneying and vanquishing all comers to a feat that is frankly deserves such a reward. For context, the tournament I played earlier with Vladislav, in which I won the whole contest, only gave him close to level 1 of bow. So yeah, you'd have to do an insane amount of tournaments, basically, to max them all out. You probably will never see it. I'm sure we will. I'm sure within a week, someone on Reddit will be like, yeah, I maxed everything out. Look how cool I am. And yeah, meet Count Martin the Shy. The irony is not lost. And he basically, I think they've just given him all of them unlocked on here. So yeah, he's a sprightly 67 years of age. Does not show it in his face. That's why he's hiding it. He has a bunch of experience traveling around Europe and just happens to be the most feared tawny knight in the history of the world. Witness the power of this fully operational Hastilda trait. So yeah, this guy has everything basically. So as you can see, it stacks everything on here, which yeah, this would be crazy amount of bonuses. He's level 3 on all the different paths. And yeah, that would be pretty nice. Would be pretty nice. I mean, it is pretty overpowered, but it's also not insane actually. Looking at it like this, it's not that crazy. I mean, it is a nice swathe of bonuses, like the minus 25 army, more lifestyle experience, more regiments, things like that. Like, it is good, but it actually looks less overpowered than I thought it was going to. I mean, it is still ridiculously good, though. So yeah, that's how that works. Marty here managed to win over 20 contests in his life, spending his days sitting through the house at the foot of the Pyrenees. That is, whenever he wasn't turning up at literally every tournament we'd have him in. No doubt to the exasperated groans of every other knight in the continent. Another thing you may take note of, apart from the absurdity of the fully powered trait, is that the icon has changed compared to before. That still the trait will change its icon depending on which trait track experience your character has. I won't read the rest of this, but basically it changes depending on which one you have. So this is with none. This is if you're the best at the bow, melee, horse riding, or wit. Well, the 4 here, yeah, horse, bow, and wit. And the cool thing is it actually is modular, so it will show, like, this guy's good at horse and wit, so it has these 2 icons. This guy has everything unlocked, so he has all the icons on there. I love that. It, like, just at a glance, you can see what someone's good at. And then, yeah, just saying, basically for modders, you can change this all up. You can change how it looks. Again, we won't go through the modding side of things because we don't really cover modding, so there's a lot. There's even forbidden knowledge here. There's a spoiler. There's a lot of mod knowledge here, and then if you click this, there's actually crazy amounts more. So yeah, it's insane the amount of stuff they're showing off. It's really, really cool. And there we go. That's the end of the dev diary for this week. So another pretty busy one. They are saying that's all for grand tournaments. Well, that's most of how grand tournaments will look. And then next week, they're going to show grand weddings and feasts. So we're going to see red weddings, all that cool stuff. And then also some changes coming to the smaller activities that are available. There it is. Thank you very much to Elizabeth, John, and Nick here for giving us this breakdown. This looks really, really good. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I think it looks awesome. Like the changes in there, well, not changes, but how it works has been so thought out, I think. And even if you can't participate, there's cool stuff to do as an attendee And yeah, I just can't wait to get in there and give it a try and see what crazy combinations we can get up to. But anyway, I've held you up for long enough today. If you've enjoyed it, hit that like button. If you're new here, I cover Crusader Kings, all the dev diaries, and I play historical titles on the channel. So subscribe if that's your kind of thing. But we'll leave it there for today, and I'll see you in the next one.